welcome to another episode of the Godly Business Podcast. So, today we're going to continue our conversation that we started last week about money and how oftentimes your perception of money is one of the reasons why you are unable to close your sale. You're unable to have the conversation with your prospect about the money part of the conversation of closing and asking for the money. So last week we talked about sometimes is your predisposed negative connotation around money that is often stopping you from asking for the sale. Sometimes it's a on the back of your mind and your subconscious that you are repelling money without even realizing it because you have a negative view of money. The other thing that we touched on last week was the fact that sometimes you are trying to sell out of your own pocket. You are trying to sell to your prospect or pricing your product based on where you are currently financially. So therefore, you price and price your product lower than it should be. And when you do price it accordingly, if you sense hesitation, oftentimes, you tend to start to reduce the price in order to close the sale. So we had a lot of conversation around how your approach and your view of money is actually causing you to not close the sale and not get to the goal that you are trying to get. So that was last week's conversation. Today we are going to continue still around the subject of money, but going to approach it from another angle. So last week I mentioned a book that I think you should read. I did not have it on me and I thought I could find it on my phone, but I couldn't. So today I bought the book. Make sure I had the book with me. It's called Your Money Counts by Howard Dayton. And so I'm going to read a passage in this. It's a really short book. It's not really, big. So you could probably sit and read it probably in a week if you spend like an hour in each chapter or so. I think it only has like, I don't know, 17 chapters, right? So you could probably finish it in a week or two. One of the passage that I wanted to talk about was honesty. So I wanted to read the portion of the book that talked about honesty. Um, this to me was very eye-opening because it talked about to be completely honest, right? No little white lies. God doesn't have like, oh, it's a white lie, right? So if I say, how are you feeling? And you're not feeling well, and you say, well, I'm good. While I do believe that we should proclaim goodness over ourselves, even little stuff as lying or deceiving, somebody calls you and you're like, oh, see, I'm not here, or pretending that you're not here. All of those things are lies. And so I wanted to read this part with you. It says, why does God demand absolute honesty? God has opposed the standard, imposed, I'm sorry. God has imposed the standard of absolute honesty for 5 reasons. I'm just going to read the first one. It says, we cannot practice dishonesty and love God. When we practice dishonesty, we are acting as if the living God does not exist. And it is impossible to love God if he doesn't exist. Stop and think about what we are saying when we make decisions to be dishonest. What we're saying is God is not able to provide exactly what I need, even though he has promised to do so. I will take things into my own hands and do them my own dishonest way. God is incapable of discovering my dishonesty. God is powerless to discipline me. If you really believe that God will discipline us, then we should not consider acting dishonestly. Honest behavior is an issue of faith. Now, one of the reasons this book brought this up was regarding handling money, right? Because it's a book about money. But I think beyond that, we should look into ways that we are being dishonest in every aspect of our life. And why do we act in a dishonest way, right? Most of the time is for self-preservation. We become dishonest, or we are dishonest in order for us to preserve ourselves. We don't want certain things to happen, or we want certain things to happen a certain way. And instead of relying on God, we become dishonest. Now, this is also referring to like debt, right? Getting into debt. But it talks about, cheating your employer, for example, by stealing, I don't know, a pen, or stealing hours, or not saying you did something that you didn't do, or saying you didn't do something that you did do. Those things, and showing how that is being dishonest. So now, in relation to what we were talking about in sales particularly, we can see how, if you are being dishonest and presenting your offer, right, or saying that you can do something that you know that you cannot offer, that you cannot present, that you cannot stand behind, and making your sales pitch, you are being dishonest, right? And you will not be blessed for it. You may get money, you may close clients, you may start seeing that you are making money, but at the end of the day, not all money is good money. And that is not a blessing, because it is a curse. You are going to repay for it. You are going to reap what you sow. Those things are going to come back to haunt you, because you are making your faith in the money and not God. And so this brings me to my first conversation about money, and when it comes to sales and trying to lie. Again, you could try to spin it however you want to, right? But if you are being deceitful, if you are not being completely honest in your sales speech, or you are, what do you call it? You are not divulging all the information in order for the person to make the right decision, this is being dishonest. So, for example, if you are pitching a service, and you know that one of the things that the client absolutely need, or even if they not don't realize that they need it, but you know it's something that they need, and you know that it's something that you unfortunately cannot offer, but instead of redirecting them to your competitor, for example, who can offer that solution for them, but you rather keep that client knowing that they need this, and you are unable to provide that service, is being dishonest. And so I read this chapter because I wanted us to have an honest conversation about being honest when it comes to making our pitch sales. Um, this is something that, if you are having a hard time in sales, that you should look into, if you are being dishonest about what you can offer. Because most of the time, if you are being dishonest, people can feel it, right? And God, if you call yourself a Christian, God will not allow you to move forward in that way. God will not allow you to lie and also claim him, right? And so that may be one of the reasons why you are not able to sell, because you are not being honest, truthful, and 100% open about your ability or inability in the service that you are offering. And so the first thing I said is that then what happens is that your confidence is no longer in God, but in the money, right? Because you are trying to find ways for you to get to the money without God. And therefore, when you do that, you are putting the money as an idol and as your God, because now it becomes first and foremost in your life, and not God as the provider, not God as the source of your provision. Because what happens when you become dishonest in trying to pitch to sell, or refraining from dissolving information, all of those are still lies. You are still being deceitful, right? Now, there is a difference where I may not tell you all of the features of this product or service, because it may not be necessary for you to know all of them in order for you to get to book, right? I may not need to tell you all of the speed of this phone and all the RAMs and all of that, because it's irrelevant to you, right? That's not going to add, and sometimes that can confuse certain people, right? So if you're not a techie type of person, right? And I'm trying to sell you this cell phone, and I go into certain features talking about, the not like storage, but like the speed of the RAM and like certain software and things like that, you may absolutely get overwhelmed and confused and like, that seems a little bit too much for me, so I don't want to deal with that phone, right? So that's different versus I'm giving you information that is relevant to what you need without overwhelming you with information that is not relevant to what you need. So there is a difference. So it's not that you are being deceitful and not divulging that information. It's just that information is not relevant to the person. It's not the value they're looking for. While that feature may be helping them and that the phone is fast, right? I'm gonna focus on the phone being fast as a value, not the um, you know, mechanics of what makes it fast. I hope that makes sense, right? So there are times where you don't give too much information because you don't want the person to be overwhelmed. But at the same time, you don't want to withhold information that can help the person make a decision about moving forward with you or not moving forward with you, because then it's still deceit, right? So maybe one of the reasons that you are not selling is because you are so focused on the money and not on the person, and not relying, and you are relying on yourself solely to achieve the sales and not relying on God's um, power to provide for you. God will send you the right clients. You have to trust that God will send you the right clients at the right time for the right reasons. And having that confidence, having that confidence that God will provide will allow you to just come to that client and be completely honest with them on what you can or cannot provide, um what you are willing to provide and what you are not willing to provide, if that makes sense. Because then your confidence is in God and you are not so caught up on the money. So that's the first thing. If you are making money an idol, and if you are taking it upon yourself to just be deceitful in order for you to close clients, that's probably one of the reasons why you will not be successful. You may start being successful on paper, temporarily, right? For a little bit, it may seem that you're on top, but you will crash and burn because you will reap what you sow. And God says He will not be mocked. You will pay for it, right? So it's better to just trust God and His ability to provide for you and pray and just be completely honest in the whatever you are offering. So that's the first thing. The second thing is not being able to manage, not being a good manager, not being a good steward of the money and resources that God is giving you. And that money and resources includes your client, right? So I'm going to read in Luke 16, verse 10. Let me find it. And that verse talks about being faithful in small and big stuff. So he said, he who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. And he who is unjust in what is least is unjust also in much. So we hear this also from the world, right? That says, you know, I forgot how they put it, but everyone knows like however you are, that's how you are. You are the same way when you handle small things, and you are the same way when you handle big things. And then talking about honesty, I want you to be honest with you. Are you handling the small things correctly? Are you handling the small things correctly? Because if you are not handling the small things correctly, most likely you will not be able to handle the big responsibilities correctly, right? If you are a parent, I'm sure you would not give your child a sports car if they are unable to take care of the bicycle that you gave them, right? It would be irresponsible for you to think that somehow they're going to take care of this bigger responsibility when they can't take care of the smaller responsibility that you gave them, right? My son currently, he's 5, he's going to be 6. He wants a dog, right? And I told him, in order for me to give you a dog, I need to see how you handle the current responsibility that you have. And since you cannot handle the current responsibility that you have, I can't give you more responsibility when you can carry the small ones. So, with that being said, I want you to also think, why would God bless you with more? Why would God open up more doors, more opportunities for you if you are unable to keep up with your current clients? You're not treating them well. You are not giving them the maximum that they need from you, right? You are not being a good steward of that resource. So why would God open up more doors for you to get more clients, right? So go back and reflect that maybe one of the reasons why you are unable to get more clients is the fact that you are not able, willing, and doing the things that you need to do to handle your clients. Same thing with money. Let's say you want to launch into a new program, you want to launch something new, but you are not currently handling the finances that he gave you when you first started. He started to give you small, clients and small, he starts small, right? God says he loves, small beginnings. So if you are not handling the small ones, why would he, as a good father, because our father is a great dad, it would not be wise for you to waste his resources, to waste, the talent that he has given you when you are wasting it on the small things. He's not going to bless you with big. And I do caution people when you know you're not doing well and you know you're not handling the things that you are to, supposed to handle right now with the resources that you have, and you are going out for more. The same thing is if your capacity is to handle, like, let's say 10 clients, I would not try to get 20, 30 clients. Why? Because then at that point, you're not going to be able to service them unless you now start creating systems, right? Hiring people, creating systems for you to support the 20, the double size of clients that you are trying to get. Because if not, what will happen is you will start losing clients. So again, if the money conversation is like, hey, I want to get more and more and more and more, but you cannot handle the small, that is probably one of the reasons why you are not being successful in your business and in selling and closing clients, because you're not doing the follow-up that you need to do, because you're already overwhelmed with all the things that you have going on right now, right? You are not able to focus on having a genuine conversation with the client, because all you're thinking about is booking them, booking them, booking them, and not realizing, okay, do I actually have capacity to help this person to the fullest of my ability, right? So don't so much chase, let me get more people, let me get more people in the door, let me get more people in the door, when you are not at a capacity to handle it. That's also being dishonest. That's also being deceitful, because you are not in a position to actually help that person, right? Or those people, whatever it is, especially if you're a coach or consultant. Does your business have room and capacity to take in more people? If not, do not put yourself in a position where you are now going to have to cut corners in order for you to maximize your dollar. Again, going back to the conversation of being honest and seeing, are you making money your idol and not God your idol? And sometimes you may have to be honest with yourself and realize, hey, instead of getting 10, 15, 20 clients, maybe I need to reconsider what I'm offering. That could be a solution. and offer more to my clients, my current clients, for me to grow and expand with the current clients that I have. That is that is a different approach that you could have, but that's a completely different subject, right? Um, so the thing is asking yourself, do I have capacity to handle what God has given me well right now? And if you are, I would say focus on handling the the small beginnings well. Focus on doing well where you are. Focus on perfecting. We will never be perfect, but I want you to work on perfecting your system, perfecting your flow, perfecting how you are moving so that you can be ready to be blessed because you are handling, the 2 talents, you turned it into 4. The 5 talents, you turned it into 10. You are showing God that, yes, I can handle more because I'm stewarding what you have given me well. Now, in talking about stewarding, I know we're talking a lot about money, but I want you to look into stewarding resources, not just money. Money is one resource, but stewarding your resources well. One thing that God has been showing me for me in stewarding my resources well is stewarding my time as well, which is a huge resource, which is more important than money, right? Because money come and go. You could lose 10,000 today, you could make 20,000 tomorrow, right? But not but and losing time, however, is something you will not be able to make up. You cannot make up time. That is a resource that is inval- invaluable, right? Um, and that is something that is another resource that you should learn to manage correctly. And in the time that you have, sometimes you feel like you're so busy. You have so much things going on. But if you pull the layers and remove things off your plate, you realize there's a lot of things that you're spending your time on that is not aligning with the goals that you have, that is not aligning with the things that you need to do. So therefore, you are wasting that resource of time, right? So if you're like, God, I'm thinking about going back to school, but I don't have the time to go back to school. But then you spend 4 or 5 hours, 6, 7 hours sometimes a day doing absolutely nothing but maybe scrolling on your phone or, you know, shopping or doing something that is not productive and not aligning with the things that you told God that you want, right? You're not doing the research into the program. You're not reading books about, whatever it is that you say you want to do. You're not spending the time to get the information or whatever to put you in the path of what you claim that you want, that you're praying to God for. And so if you are then using that resource of time, and you're not using that resource of time wisely, it's going to be hard for God to then answer your prayers when it comes to other things, because you're not, um why should I give you the scholarship to go to school when you go to school you're probably not going to focus, you're not going to take it seriously. If I give you the scholarship, are you going to flunk out the first year? You know what I mean? So those are the things that you need to consider, and then being honest with yourself, um, and managing your resources. And that's one of the things maybe that is not going, that is one of the reasons why you're not doing so well in your sales. How do you prepare for your sales? One of the things I realize is a lot of time people don't prep for their sales call, right? Are you prepping for your sales call? Are you looking into the client? Are you reading what the client's needs are? Are you diving deeper before your sales calls with this prospect? Even if it's a cold call, what information do you have? How are you going to approach this conversation? Or are you just going in blindly, fingers crossed, and hope that the conversation goes well? Are you prepping? And that's another thing. If you are not spending the time that you to learn how to sell, to This is gonna sound biased, but watch the videos that I post to learn about selling. But you're like, God, I suck at this. I don't know how to have the sales conversation. There are so many videos on sales, so many books on sales. I feel like sales and marketing is probably one of the most business books out there, right? Because if you can't sell, your company's gonna go under. That's that's just the fact, right? You have to get money in the door. But if it's a skill that you don't have, why not get the book? Why not um you know listen to the videos, watch the videos, take the time to invest in that skill. So if you are not doing that, then you can't then go back to God and be like, God, I don't know what to do. I'm not getting the sales, nobody's buying, and you're not investing in the time to learn to sell, right? So that's the second thing. And the last thing I want to talk about is, I touch on it a lot around so many conversation that I've had. You could go back as far as 2 3 years ago doing videos around sales, and that's one of the thing is, and I've touched on it also last week, and it's very very important, and I'm going to touch on it again today, and that is fear. Fear around sales, fear around money, fear around whatever insecurities that you may have, fear around whatever anxiety that you may have. You have to address that as well before you get into the sales conversation, or throughout your sales conversation. You have to address your own fear. You have to address your fear and not projecting your fear, right? One of the things I say when you are in a sales conversation is that you are projecting confidence, right? You are projecting your certainty into whatever product or service that you are selling back to the client. You are making them feel certain that the decision that they are making about signing up with you, buying your product or service, purchasing your package is the right decision. If you are fearful, that is going to hinder you in, you know, making that sale. So again, we have to understand that fear is the opposite of faith. If you have faith, you can't fear. If you fear, you can't have faith. You can't have both. They cannot live simultaneously in the same space, right? So if you are having fear, I want you to think about, what are you fearful of, right? Are you fearful of rejection, which oftentimes is one of the things that seems to be a big factor, especially with newer people who are in sales, being rejected, right? The rejection. It's always, how do I overcome objections? And objections and rejections are not the same, but a lot of times people merge them as the same thing. That someone is objecting something, that they are rejecting me, and that is not the same thing. That's a whole nother video for a whole nother subject time, right? But so if your focus on the conversation is to close the sale, to not be rejected, to overcome objection, and your whole focus in the sales conversation is getting around that versus letting figuring out a way for you to help your client, for you to showcase your expertise, that's another reason why you are not closing the sale, right? So if you come into the conversation and your whole fear is kind of like what we talked about earlier, is, am I going to have enough, am I going to be able to close this client? And if that's your whole focus in the conversation that you're having, it's going to be hard for you to then be presently listening to the things that your prospect is telling you that they need. And then because you're not focusing on that, it's going to be hard for you then to convey your solution based on what they are saying. Sales is a skill. It's something that anyone can do. I do not believe you need to have a certain personality in order for you to sell. You could have the most quietest of personality and be great at sales. And I do believe probably the quieter you are, the more likely you'll probably be great at sales, right? Because you are most likely able to listen and focus and pay attention to the person that's in front of you, because you are not over talking, you are listening, and you're being present, right? So I don't think sales is a personality thing at all, right? But I do want you to think and be honest. Today we're just being honest in everything that we're doing, right? I want you to be honest with yourself in the sales conversation. What is your main focus? When you go in the sales conversation, what is it that is dominating your mind as the person is talking? Is it that I need to close this client today? I need to close this client today. Or how do I overcome objections? Please do not ask me this question that I don't know how to answer, right? Is that your focus? Or is your focus on, I'm focusing on what this person is saying in order for me to pitch or position my solution better? Now, one of the things I want to talk about is in helping you to position your product or service. A pitfall that oftentimes you fall into, and a lot of time the root of that is fear, is you start offering solutions in your consultation call. You start offering the solution to the problem in your consultation call, because you are fearful that the person is going to, I don't know, not purchase from you, not close the sale for whatever reason. So I would suggest, again, you focus on understanding what your client needs. And your job in that sales call is to showcase that, to show to your client or prospect that you have the solution, and you're going to tell them what you will do in order for you to help them to get the solution, but not the how. That is one of the things that I want you to understand there's a difference between, because a lot of times, because of fear, you start giving away your goods. You start giving away the solution to the problem, and you just panic, right? And you're like, oh yeah, do XYZ. You should do ABC. And it's like, then why would you just gave me the solution so I don't have to pay you then? I don't have to, especially coach and consultant. You have to understand the difference between, I'm going to show you what it is. These are the focus that we'll probably need to focus on, and I'm going to help you to get there. And these are some of the what that we will need to focus on, but I'm not going to show you the how, because the how is why you pay me to show you the how, right? And so fear is probably one of the biggest factors, fear around not being provided for, right? Which is why sometimes you will lie and not tell your customer and not be completely honest and withhold information, because you are fearful that you will lose them, because you are fearful that you have to find the solution yourself, and not trusting that God is going to provide, that God is going to be give you and provide you with the clients that you need this month to meet your goal. And fear is also behind one of the reasons why you're probably not managing your resources correctly, including your time. Maybe you are procrastinating because you are fearful of having this conversation with this client, because you are fearful of, what if they don't accept me? You are fearful of rejection, not even objections, rejections, because a lot of time people fear rejections and not necessarily the objection that a client may present to you as part of your sales conversation. So these are the three things I wanted to talk about as to probably one of the reasons why you are not getting to your goal in sales. One of the pitfalls that may be stopping you from achieving your goals. And honestly, I believe that if you are, again, the theme of this message, I guess, is honesty, right? So if you are honest with yourself, I want you to go back and one, repent to God and ask Him to forgive you for trying to rely on your own strength, trying to make money an idol and forgetting Him and placing your confidence in money instead of in Him, placing confidence in yourself that you have to lie, you have to be deceitful in order for you to get clients. There's an exercise I do all the time where I ask people, when you think of sales, what are the first few things that comes into your mind? And without a doubt, most of the time that the answer that I get is like, being salesy, being slimy, being dishonest. Those are the things that people think of sales oftentimes, right? And so if you're approaching sales with that mindset, if you are approaching sales with it's something negative, it's something that's icky, it's something that is you have to be dishonest, you have to twist arm and lie in order for you to sell. That is probably why, as a Christian, I completely understand why in doing your business you may have a fear around sales, because that is the narrative, that is the picture that is portrayed in sales, right? And so I want you to change your mindset around that, right? Sales, in my book, is having a conversation with someone and showcasing them the value and whatever product or service that you're offering, and shaping them and transferring your certainty of your ability of the product or service that you have, and showcasing that to them, right? And showing them that the value is there for them. That is it. And sometimes that also means showing them that, hey, the value, you're not going to get the value that you are looking for with my product or service. You may want to go to XYZ, right? I have no problem saying, hey, my course or my program, my book may not be the best for you where you are right now. Go to so and so. There may be a better fit for you as to where you are. And you know what? In 6, 7 months, that person may come back and be like, okay, I needed to get these things in order. Now I'm ready to move forward with you. And at that point, that person is now ready to move with your solution. Don't ever feel like you have to fight, because not everybody is for you and not everybody's for you right now, right? So you don't have to fight to you don't have to lie, you don't have to persuade people. You do have to persuade in a way, but not in a way of like, I have to make you see that, like, no, this is exactly why most people fear sales. Most people feel like, I don't want to lie, right? Like, I've heard that, like, I don't want to lie to sell. And because of this misperception that selling is somehow inherently deceitful, right? A lot of people don't have a hard time selling, right? And that is not what sales is. So I want you to one, repent for that. Ask God to forgive you for being deceitful. Ask God to forgive you for lying. Ask God to forgive you for not being 100% honest with yourself and with others. And then once you repent, go and ask God to help you manage your resources better, manage your clients better, manage your time better, manage your schedule, manage your finances better, so that you could be a better resource to your client, right? If you manage your money better, you most likely won't feel the necessity to have to twist arms, right? Because the money is just the cherry on top, but helping people is what the first force is, right? I want everyone to get to that point where it's like, I'm doing this because I really love it, and I get to get paid for doing this, not like I'm doing this because I really need the money. And the money is not the forefront of the reason why you're doing what you're doing, right? And you are trusting God to be the provider. You allowing God to be your shepherd. You're allowing him to be your shepherd, to for you to lack nothing, for him to be your all in all. You're relying on him. and also that you are not going to be fearful because you got God. You know, you're relying on him and you know he got you. So you don't need to be fearful around trying to provide for yourself and having to figure things out and then falling into sin of having to feel like you have to be dishonest. Okay. So that's what I wanted to share with you guys today is those are some of the things that may be stopping you from achieving your sales goals. And that if you change your mindset around that and approach it from a different angle, that you may actually get to see the blessing of the Lord on your business, that you are going to probably be a lot less fearful and a lot more relaxed and having the sales conversation. Now, I don't know if I had mentioned this. I think I did about working on my book. I am still working on it. Okay. Be patient with moi as I pray and work on this. I think I even gave a deadline. And yeah, that was God is working on me and my resources of time. Okay. So be patient with me as I keep working on this book. I think it will be helpful for you guys in navigating sales based on godly principles and also learning the skills that you need to learn it. So I want to make sure that is a great resource for you guys, and I want to be honest in it as well. All right. So I hope this was helpful. I hope you learned a lot. If you have questions, concern, let me know what are some of the things that are stopping you from achieving your success, your sales goal, which part of this conversation that we had last week and this week that may be getting in the way of you being successful. And I hope you have enjoyed this podcast, which I just realized I didn't even introduce myself. I just started talking to y'all. Anyways, yeah. Thank you for watching the Godly Business Podcast, where we discuss sales fundamentals with biblical principles. I'm your host, Anne Jean Pierre, and I hope you enjoyed this podcast. And I will talk to you guys next time. God bless. And remember that if you have questions or concerns, you can ask me, but you can always go to God because He will guide you in the way that you should go. He will counsel you and teach you. And yeah, you have an amazing day. I'll talk to you guys soon.